All my pumpkins are called George, and this is no exception. Last year I made my very first scary pumpkin on the channel, and it was called George. Also, actually, I made a very tiny little one called Giorgino, Little George. So here is George for the current year. It's not a very big pumpkin. It's only about over 800 grams. But when I saw it at the supermarket, I really liked him because of its size. So I decided to use a medium George this year to make my pumpkin. And last year I made some beautiful ravioli, homemade ravioli, using some of the pumpkin with sage and butter. This year I've got something else in mind, something a little different and unique, but also I'll be making a very pasta shape pumpkin, really scary, so just bear with me. Believe it or not, I have been thinking about this for the last couple of days, and I have finally reached my final design. And just like any pumpkin, I'm removing all of the internal first, and that's great. I've managed to remove all of the stringy flesh and seeds, which I don't need. Now the next job is to remove some of the pumpkin itself, as I want to use in my pasta bake. I'm making a pasta bake, by the way, and I'm adapting a very Sicilian recipe. So this is not very big, but I need to make sure that I don't break it. So I'll go with a knife and I'll score it on the sides, and I'll just make sure that I get some off, and then that'll give me some of the flavor. Obviously this job is a lot easier if your pumpkin is bigger than George, my pumpkin. But as I said, I do not need a lot, just enough to complement my soffritto and to give my pasta bake the lovely autumn flavor. And here it is. Look, I've taken out enough and I've got a beautiful and clean pumpkin on the inside. When I saw George at the supermarket, I was particularly attracted by this little mark, and I thought that could be the front of his face. But my general rule when I make a pumpkin at Halloween is to make them as scary as I can, but also a little bit friendly. So this is very unusual. I'm actually drilling some holes on what was the bottom of the pumpkin, which will become the head at the top, and you will see why in a moment. This type of pasta is called fusilli bucati lunghi, and I like them because they are curled, and you can see where I'm going. I'm using each piece of pasta to now start building some hair. So I'm gonna give George hair, and these are quite good because I can twist them and they will go in like a screw, and they'll stay in place. I'll just move it closer to the camera so you can see what I mean. They stay nice in place. Of course, should you wish to replicate this design, you can use spaghetti, or you can even use linguine, but do make sure that you've got a little skewer to hand so that you can go back should some of the holes be a little bit too small, and just patiently I will start building his hair. A bit like a transplant. I suspect it's not that different, but this is for pumpkins. If you do end up making this and using fusilli bucati like I am, make sure that you are gentle. Just twist it gently and press at the same time, and actually they will go in. Different size, that's the part of the design. It needs to look scary. So I'll do them all, and then I'll show you what it looks like before it goes in the oven. It was crossing my mind that I've never done anything like this before, and this is a first for me. I've not even done a trial. And if I was a commercial channel, and what I mean by commercial, one of those YouTube channels set up for profits and to make money, most probably I would have done a trial run first. But I have to say, I do really enjoy making the mistakes whilst I am videoing and sharing them with you. I think it's part of the fun of having Tortellino time. So what I want to share with you is that I was going through with this, but my fusilli are a bit thicker, so I ended up putting a larger end in my drill and making the hole slightly bigger, and actually it's a dream. They're going in no problem whatsoever. Also, a learning is very obvious, but I'll mention it, is start from the middle and go sideways so that it's easier, because once you've got them in the sides, it's difficult to get in. So occasionally I go in and do some infilling, but it's coming along. I'll show you the front. I'm nearly there, and then I'll be with you. And I'm pretty much done. Stage 1 is complete. By the way, do ensure that if you do this, that they are nice and firm, and I'm very pleased with mine. So one thing I've done, any small bits that broke along the way, I put them on the back. So next job is to place it in the oven, and I'm going to do a couple of things as I've got a vision for my George. You can actually leave it as it is if you like. I think it's scary enough to the eyes, the nose and the mouth, but as I said, I've got a vision. And that starts with a little olive oil. This is not for cooking, by the way. Well, it's not for eating. The eating part is the pasta, just to clarify. The reason why I'm putting some olive oil on it is to make sure that it doesn't dry up too much and it doesn't split. And it will also give me, oops, I lost a hair. And it will also give me a nice and shine finish on the face. Just a little, not a lot. And with the hair, I've got here some water. This is not Dettol, by the way, it's just water. And I'll be placing him in the oven. So I'll just spray some water on the top, just like this. And I'll go all the way so that make the pasta nice and moist. And my vision is for the hair to cook and to effectively fold. And maybe I can not comb it, but I can do something with it. We'll see. As I said before, I've never done it before, so I'm very keen to see what happens. Okay, so it's ready to go in the oven. Sounds like I'm making a cake. And the temperature, I'll put in for about 20 to 25 minutes. It's only a small pumpkin, 180 degrees. I'll have a look after 10 minutes. And then once it's out, I will leave it to rest for about 20 minutes maybe, until it cools down. And then I can do some of the carving and I'll show you what else I've got in mind. So see you in a little while. And 20 minutes was plenty, not only because I've softened up the pumpkin slightly, which is what I want, but also because this is exactly what I had in mind. Everything has curled down and looks a bit spiky, but because it was in the oven for 20 minutes, the pasta has become this beautiful bronzy color. I think it's gonna be a bit of a Don Giovanni, this pumpkin. But also, if you look at the bottom here, you can see the roots, the original color. So presentation, I think, is gonna look fantastic. I'll leave it to cool down. In the meantime, I'll prepare the pasta, as I mentioned before, using the pumpkin. So I'll get on with that next. And I'll be making a classic Sicilian pasta bake, so I'll start with the soffritto, as is always the case, but using pumpkin this time. And I've actually chopped all of my ingredients for the soffritto. I've got a little celery stem, chopped very finely, likewise a medium-sized carrot, a medium-sized onion, all chopped very finely. This is a large clove of garlic which I've crushed, and one medium-sized pepper, again chopped relatively small. And with the pumpkin, 120 grams by the way, I've actually chopped it slightly, but I left it in relatively big pieces so that I can appreciate the texture. Whenever I make a soffritto and I've got a variety of ingredients like today, my temperature is always on maximum for about 1 minute so that they get going, but I will then turn it down after a minute to medium and I'll leave them to now sizzle on their own. I'll place the lid on so that they cook quicker for about 7 or 8 minutes. So I waited until everything has softened up. You can see that everything looks lovely, and I got here 400 grams of a mixture of pork and beef mince, and I'll add it in. I'll turn the temperature up once again and I'll break it in. And I'll mix it together so that it combines with my soffritto, but I'll turn the temperature between medium and high, and I will leave it to continue cooking until it's all browned up, about 5 minutes. The bottom of my pan is beginning to dry, and it's an ideal time to add a third of a glass of dry white wine, and I'll mix it in until the alcohol has evaporated. These are a couple of jars of homemade tomato sauce. This is passata and these are chopped tomatoes. So passata goes in total will be 600 grams. I only made them a few weeks ago, and I'll post a link to those two videos separately at the end of this video, so you can make them if you wish. But of course you can also use purchased passata or purchased tomatoes. This is obviously homemade and it's going to taste a little bit nicer. Pinch of salt, a generous amount of pepper. This is oregano, which I often use if I make pasta bake, so a nice pinch, about half a teaspoon. And I'll mix everything together. I'll place the lid back on and I will leave it to cook for about 20 minutes, medium temperature. In the meantime, I'll prepare my cheese sauce, and this is a recipe which is very closely aligned to something my mum used to make. I've got 400 milliliters of semi-skimmed milk. This is the zest from a little piece of lemon. You saw me adding a little pinch of salt. This is pepper. 40 grams of plain flour, effectively is 10 grams per 100 milliliters. 100 milliliters of milk, that is, of course. And at the moment everything is off, there is no heat under the pan. I'm working from cold. And this is Parmigiano Reggiano, so I'm gonna be putting a good tablespoon in it. And the last ingredient for my cheese sauce is going to be some ground nutmeg. This will go really well with any sauce, but also because I've got my pumpkin, which is quite earthy in flavor, I think they will complement each other beautifully. And I'll turn the heat on maximum and I'll start mixing it together. And as soon as the milk warms up, I'll turn it down slightly between medium and maximum, and I'll continue mixing. And if you take a look, it's beginning to bubble and set. It's beautiful and creamy. So I'll mix it for a few more seconds, then I'll remove it from the heat. Here is my little stand, and I'll leave it here to continue kind of marinate on its own. But I'll place the lid on, and also the lemon will release some beautiful flavor, and I'll leave it aside. I've got this new neon light with Tortellino on, something that my children have purchased me for my birthday as a gift, but I keep forgetting to turn it on, so I better do it now, never too late. So, many pasta bakes in Sicily use rigatoni as far as pasta goes, and today is no exception. So I'm gonna be using rigatoni also, which is something also that my mum used to cook a lot. But we'll only cook them for about 5 minutes, which is half of the recommended cooking time if you were to cook them throughout. And in case you're wondering, that is because the pasta will finish cooking in the oven with the sauce, and it will absorb some of the beautiful flavors. And if you were to cook it too much, then it will become a little bit too sloppy and gluey. So this is a very, very traditional way of cooking a pasta bake. And I follow very traditional ways of doing this. So my pasta is partly cooked, I'll put it inside a bowl. My sauce is also done, so I'll move it over here. And the first thing to do is to mix some of the sauce with the pasta. 4 scoops, enough to get the pasta going and start absorbing some of the flavor. George is so pleased with his new hair look that he has very kindly agreed to move away from the tray so that I can use it to make the pasta. So I'm going to do this in 2 phases. I'll pour some of my pasta, half of it at the bottom. Earlier today I prepared a couple of hard-boiled eggs, and I've sliced them in about half a centimeter, and I'm going to add them in the middle, both eggs, they go in 1 layer. This is a fresh ball of mozzarella. I'm going to use half in the middle layer. This is cheddar. I know it's not very Italian, but it's really tasty, and you can use any cheese you like. Even in Italy these days they use cheddar, so nothing wrong with it at all. A general portion amount here. And off I go again with another layer of my sauce. I'm making sure that I put plenty of liquid. I thought I might have made too much, but I can see that it's going to be perfect, so I'll pour it all in. I'll go along with my spoon and spread it across evenly. I've just applied another layer of cheddar, and I'm now adding the rest of my pasta. Maybe I was a little bit optimistic about the size of my oven tray, but that should be okay. And one thing you cannot have enough, or maybe too much, in any pasta bake is cheese. So I'm just adding a little bit more cheddar, and I'll finish with a touch of Parmigiano, which is obviously very, very Italian. I think I was a little bit optimistic with the judgment of the tray, so I will have to make sure that I put another tray underneath. Otherwise I will end up with a mess in the oven. This is again very, very Sicilian. Just a sprinkle of breadcrumbs, not a lot, just enough to give my Sicilian pasta bake a nice golden crust, but also it will absorb some of the sauce, and it will become absolutely beautiful. And it is ready to go in the oven. So temperature 180 degrees for about half an hour. I will not cover it as I want the sauce to evaporate, and then I will leave it to rest for 5 minutes, and then I'll show you what it looks like. But in the meantime, I'll go back to George, who is ready and waiting. And I'm ready to continue with my exciting project. I got a cap from the pumpkin, which I didn't bake because this will be the base and I wanted to retain its strength. Tea light, and the first thing to do is to mark the bottom so that I can actually then sit it inside it without moving. I'm just going around with a little knife until I remove like this, that's done. I'll just use a spoon to get any excess off. Let's have a look. That's perfect. Brilliant base. And let's bring George back, who's been waiting very, very patiently. I did say earlier that this is going to be the face, where the hair is longer, and this little mark. I made a template earlier for its mouth. I've got two sizes to see what is best. I was going to use maybe that, which is more proportional, possibly, or an even bigger one, a very, very big, scary one. Let's have a look. I think this is a bit too big, and there will not be any space for the eyes, so I'll go for the little one. I'm using a permanent marker to just mark the outline. And of course, one of the benefits of having baked him is that this is considerably easier to do than if it was raw. See, I'm going in with a knife, and it's actually a piece of cake. I can gently just go around the corners, a bit like a jigsaw. Wonderful, look at this. And there he comes. Moving on to the teeth. These are penne, and I think they are ideal for the teeth, but they're a little bit too long, so I'm actually cutting them in half like this. Of course, you can use any pasta you like, but these are really pointy, and I think they're gonna make him really scary. And there he goes. You can see what is happening. The pointy bit is ideal because it can go inside the pumpkin without any problems. Ironically, if it was a little bit bigger, it would have been easier, but it doesn't really matter as long as they stay in, and it's working very well actually. There you go. I'll put a few more in, and I'll be done. I went in the garden earlier, and I got this holly, which has got some berries attached to it, so I'm gonna pinch a couple, and they got a little point in the middle, which is perfect to replicate the pupil. So I'll apply a little glue, and I'll put it inside a conchiglia pasta or shell, just like this. And I'll do the same with the second eye. I'm making sure that the pupil point in the same direction, otherwise it will be far too scary. That's good. By the way, I'm not sure if you're aware, but humidity make super glue dry very, very quickly. So, little tip for you. Now, very important, the position of the eyes. Let's see where we're gonna place them. So here is the mouth. I think if I go maybe one over here and the other one over there, so that they look almost symmetric, and also got enough space between the teeth and the top and the nose. We need to do the nose, of course. Using a little knife, I'll drill a couple of holes first, followed by a little bit more glue. I've got a confession to make to you. I will admit I wasn't too sure which direction to put the eye, this way or the other way, so I ended up looking at myself in the mirror. So I decided to go this way up, so that the more bendy side faces upwards. And as I've actually put a little hole in there, I can, oops, I lost the tooth, never mind. I can press it, and I'll wait for the glue to start drying. So here is my second eye, and I'll place it in there also. So right eye and left eye goes in. Look at him, he's already beginning to look really, really scary. Oh God, what have I created? Maybe I should have left the teeth for last, never mind. Nose next, so that's very simple. I think it's just a matter of getting one of those pasta in there, and that's the nose done. This is a cannelloni pasta again, of course, and I've managed to score it with a knife and chop it in half. And I was going to use this trecce pasta to try and make like an earring, but I'm not able to do it properly, so I do not really want to waste too much time. So I decided to opt for Sicilian rings, this pasta over here, which should be easier as I can just attach it there, and if I again it will dry quicker. And here comes the second one. You can see exactly where I'm going with the earrings and the ears. I just pushed them in, by the way, because it's so soft, and they went in, no problem at all. I'll lower the blinds, turn the lights off, and then we can light him up. And there he goes. Actually, you do not get to see much because it's so dark, but you get the gist anyway. The Tortellino light over there helps, but ooh, it's really scary. That's very funny because as I turned the light on, you could see the smoke still coming up. Anyhow, that is George complete. I'll now go and get the pasta bake, and we can taste it and see what George thinks. See you in a couple of minutes. I did place my pasta bake inside another tray here. I'll show you, but not a single drop. It's actually very good. I think I should have been a little bit more trusty of what I've done. But it's actually been out of the oven resting now for about 15 minutes, and it is lovely and set. You can see what I meant, by the way, with the breadcrumbs. They are lovely and crusty. And as I often say, the benefit of letting pasta bake or even lasagna rest is that they come out considerably easier, and you do not have to eat them piping hot. I think these are the sort of things that you can eat relatively hot, but you will get to enjoy them more if they're not too hot. And I'm really looking forward to see what this pumpkin pasta bake tastes like. Never tried it before. The smell is very promising, and I'll lift a portion and I'll move it to my plate over here next to George. There you go, George. This is part of you.
I'll keep us going for a few days, won't it?
Yes, you can actually freeze these also once it's cooled down, and then reheat it in the microwave. I always place it inside a bowl, microwavable bowl. I put some cling film on top or a plastic rubber seal, and then that will keep the moisture in. But if you want, if it's a little bit dry, add some milk and then just put it on full power for a few minutes until it's cooked, and that's just delicious. You will remember my cheese sauce, and here it is. And this time I've actually decided that instead of putting it inside the pasta, I'll just sprinkle or dribble it, I should say, rather than sprinkle, on top of my I'm gonna call it lasagna, my pasta bake, something like this. And George, if you don't mind, with your permission, I will try some. What do you think about George? Do you think you look scary but friendly?
Well, I must say, it's the first time I've ever seen one with such fabulous hair. Actually reminds me of Marilina and family. They've all got really curly hair.
She's not watching it.
No, she's got beautiful curly hair, just like that, like a spiral perm.
Oh, it's absolutely to die for. The crunchiness of the breadcrumbs and the bechamel on top is really, really good actually. You get an immediate flavor of the nutmeg, but you can definitely taste the pumpkin inside. And as I mentioned to you before, it really complements well with the pumpkin, and it's delicious, very earthy, and very, very Sicilian to an extent. Although I don't think any Sicilian has ever cooked
I'm sure
a pasta bake like this. Honestly, it's delicious. Thank you very much, George. You've been a star. Pleasure to be with. Thank you to you for bearing with me and watching the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I might have entertained you. And if you make anything like George or anything different, post it on my Facebook page. I've got a Tortellino community page. I'm still chewing my pasta. And show me your creations. It'd be lovely to see what you make, and if you make my pasta bake, put it on and let me know what you think. I'm sure that you will not be disappointed. Thank you for watching once again, and see you later. Happy Halloween. Ciao ciao.